What's this? Episode 5?
I think so.
Welcome to episode 5 of my dad's podcast, where me and my dad podcast. How you doing today, Mr. Jones?
What's up, Marlon Jones? I'm good. I'm good.
How's your day going?
I slept most of the day. I don't know. I came home tired. I took that little couple of pills and slept like a old man.
You are old, man.
Oh, I'm just in my prime. I still got another 60 years or 70 years of life left in me.
You just had a birthday, didn't you?
Yep. I turned 26.
Anyway, speaking of old people, Queen Elizabeth died today. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah, that's been the talk, man. England is in mourning.
I don't know. I'm sadder about that than I had imagined. I don't want to sound insensitive. I don't think it's necessarily that I was emotionally connected to Queen Elizabeth. I think it's just it's a reminder that the earth is changing, like the world is changing, like for my entire life, and apparently significantly longer for your entire life. Queen Elizabeth has been the Queen of England, and now she's dead.
70 years she was over the monarchy. But she was 96 years old. To most people, that's a long, blessed life. If you can see 96 years, and I don't think she had a very hard job.
I mean, it depends on what you consider hard.
Maybe she may have,
I don't think it was very laborious. I don't think that her job involved a lot of labor, but just being in the public eye and scrutinized to the extent that she was, I think could qualify as hard. And then I thought it was in bad taste that they, even in her death, decided that they wanted to talk about some of her shortcomings and some of the scandals and things that happened. Apparently 92 was a really bad year for her and the monarchy and things of that nature. And just all of that type of stuff for her family, that like they can't grieve in peace. You have thousands of people who've never met her before gathering, and I don't know. Just from my perspective, looking at it on the news, I could see how it would be tenuous.
Well, like you said, she's been around for 70 years. Most of the people who was adults when she took over the monarchy is gone.
Yep. So like herself now, rest in peace.
I pray for the family as well that they get through this thing very strongly, but they will. They always do.
I mean, I'm sure that they were prepared for it. Plus, like you said, she was 96 years old. Like, I think any family who has a 90-something-year-old is in some way mentally prepared that they're not going to be around forever.
Oh yeah, that's true. Once you start to getting up in age like that, you cough like that, man, and people looking for you, looking at you like you ain't leaving, are you?
Yeah, but so we watched a few TV shows and a movie, if I'm not mistaken.
That wasn't no movie though. I don't know what that was. That wasn't no movie.
What is your criticism? The movie he's referring to is Honk For Jesus, Save Your Soul, something along those lines. So what was your problem with that movie?
Well, to me, I never got the understanding of what was going on with the movie. Till I'm sitting here now, 2 or 3 days later, and I still don't understand what was that movie about. What was the basic premises of that movie?
They were following a pastor and his wife as they were reopening the church after a scandal. It was pretty straightforward.
Really?
Was that not clearly established in the movie?
Not to me, but evidently to you it was.
So when they came out of the church with the news camera crew following them, and then had the headline on the news saying "church in scandal," blah blah blah, all of that stuff. The fact that they spent the entirety of the movie talking about that just.
So you're telling me that you read the signs and everything, man, that said church in scandal and all that?
It would be difficult for me to come and critique a movie if I didn't pay attention to simple parts
I'm
of it.
critiquing this one, and I paid very close attention to it. And I was looking at it from a person who's actually involved with the church a lot.
So you don't think that maybe you just were sensitive to the fact that they spoke on a lot of issues in your cult?
I'm sorry. Forgive me. I thought he said in your cult.
Yeah, the trick. If let's Google the definition of a cult and see how closely the Christian church mirrors said definition, shall we?
Go for it. Because Christian lifestyle. That's what it is. That's your lifestyle and how you actually go about trying to live it. The key to it is trying to live as close to the way Christ did on earth, according to what we know of Him. And so you can have 100 individuals in one church, and they act 100 different ways.
A system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object.
Right. That figure and object would be Christ.
In most Christian churches, that figure or object is the pastor.
You just told me something brand new, something I didn't know, because the pastor is merely a servant for that particular congregation.
Are you explaining to me how things should be or the way things are?
I'm explaining to you what the meaning behind pastor and all those things are.
You're saying
what their positions are.
So you're saying that pastors within themselves, they don't have a God complex?
You may find some. I'm not going to tell you.
Particularly pastors of mega churches?
I've never attended a mega church, been a member of a mega church, so I couldn't speak on that and be totally honest about it.
Okay, so there isn't any names that come to mind of these mega church pastors that treat themselves larger than life?
Well, the thing is that those mega church pastors that I think you're talking about and everything, they don't treat themselves larger than life. The members under them, for some reason, don't know the journey of the Christian church, and they may treat them a little better.
A system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object kind of seems as if you're saying...
But see, that figure, that object is not the pastor. That figure, that object is Jesus.
But what you just said a second ago was that the members of the church treat the pastor larger than life.
Some members of the church treat the pastor larger than life because they're not informed well enough to know that that's not what they're to do.
I think that you just weren't open to paying attention to the movie. But I mean, I'm waiting for you to give me like a legitimate criticism, because the storyline of the movie was blatantly obvious. So like, what is a legitimate?
What was so blatantly obvious about it to you?
The fact that they talked about the same thing consistently throughout the entire movie.
And what was that?
The scandal that they were in the documentary that they were shooting in the process of opening back their church.
I realized that they were in a scandal that the pastor had been accused of messing with some young guy.
Guys.
But, I only saw the one guy that stopped.
But they talked about it when he was saying, "Okay, we're going to pay him off." He named 4 people and said that there was one holdout. Like I think that you just weren't open to paying attention to the movie.
That might be true too, because I don't see any movies that's based on Christianity being a very legit positive look at the church itself.
Why does there have to be a correlation between the church and the inner dynamics of human beings, which obviously him doing this scandal, I don't think that it was Christianity or God that was messing with these young guys. That was the pastor of the church, and that's what it was a critique on, the specific pastor of the church. And you keep tying it back as if there is some unbreakable bond between the church and Christianity, which is why I call it a cult. The Christian church, Christianity within itself may be something, is something that's great. Christianity within itself, spirituality, all of that stuff. But to sit there and try and not be open to seeing the imperfections of the human beings that are running an institution that everybody knows is corrupt.
Well, I'm not trying to be. What did you say? Something about imperfection. What did you say again? I'm sorry.
You're not open to seeing the imperfections of the people who run the church as if there's some correlation between them and God, which is the same way that they carry themselves.
Well, I hadn't seen that, and like you said, I've been in the church my entire life. Most churches that I've been a part of, the members don't treat the pastor like they're Jesus, like they're God. they treat the pastor with respect and they give him admiration because we realize that's a very hard job to do. We realize that it's extremely hard, just
It's
like
not.
any
No,
just
it's
like
not.
any celebrity when people start to lifting you up
So
above
now
your.
we're correlating the pastor to celebrities.
Well, when you run in a mega church like the ones that I've seen, they are somewhat celebrities in that church, and a lot of them carry themselves outside of the church like they're celebrities.
Okay, so I guess my question is, what was inaccurate in their portrayal of said celebrity that you just established?
I didn't see anything going on in that church. They didn't give me any information.
I'm giving. I sat next to you in the movie, and I'm giving you information that I seen in the movie.
Well, we personally, me and you, because of our take on religion, would look at things from a different.
Why does this have to be about religion? This is about a man who is in charge of an organization. I never had a problem with religion. My problem is with the church, and that's what that was a critique on. It never said it didn't bring up a single line of the Bible to critique any of that. It didn't mention anything that anything about God or Jesus. There was no critiques on Christianity in that entire movie. The critique was of the church, but I think it's problematic that you
But
see.
the critique should be of the man, not the church.
If we critique Jeff Bezos' business practices, is it fair to say that we're critiquing Amazon?
Probably.
So how is it possible to critique the man that is in charge of the organization without it being a critique also of the organization?
Because you can be in charge of an organization and still have subordinates up under you who are doing exactly what that organization is built on.
But you being in charge isn't going to play any role in the organization on the whole. You being the final decision maker.
The pastor is not the final decision maker in a church.
He specifically said he got rid of
He's a spiritual guider.
Why?
Well, first of all, you're right. In that particular movie, he did say he got rid of the all those people, and to me, it no longer existed as a church when you get rid of the heart, the key function of the body.
I forgot what I was saying because you cut me off. Why is it what is it about the movie specifically that was a critique on Christianity that was inaccurate? I don't think it was a critique on Christianity at all. And I think it was an extremely accurate depiction of what modern day churches or even churches because you talk like I didn't also grow up going to church. Like I went to all these places. Like it's not like I haven't been to churches. My fair share of them. I stopped because of all of the stuff that was critiqued in that movie. What is it about that critique or portrayal that doesn't match reality?
Well, and for me, I didn't get enough information from it.
We watched the same movie,
and you got information from it I didn't get.
What information was lacking?
Well, it was a lot of things going on that I still don't understand.
Such as what?
On.
I'll break it down for you.
For as why was the wife herself the one who's actually trying to get the church back functioning and everything properly? Why was all?
Okay, I'm going to answer your questions one at a time as you go through them. They both were trying to get the church back functioning, and I think that there was actually a specific quote when he walked away in the movie while they were sitting down in front of the cameras where she was like, cut the cameras off, I want to explain something. He's the face of the church. However, I am the neck and spine of the church. I'm the foundation of it. And thusly, also at the climax of the movie, she explained that it was both of their churches. They had both put in effort in order to build it to where it was. So what did she do that he didn't do in terms of getting the church back functioning?
Well, I honestly, we'll let the people watch that movie. I wouldn't advise anybody to go out and see it, but
it's because you're brainwashed.
The ones who want to see it should go out there and let them base their own opinion.
You just said it wasn't a movie. You called it stupid throughout the whole movie,
and a stupid movie.
And I'm asking you these questions, and I'm not getting answers. And I think it is because
well, the thing is that if next time we'll talk about this again, and I'll prepare all my questions and stuff for you. I can't come off the top of my head now and say, well, this is the reason why. This is the reason why. I saw something I didn't like, and we
No,
can
but
sit here and
it's,
talk about it.
I didn't say you have to
and
like
it's
it,
not
but
gonna
if you're
change
gonna
what
sit
I
here and
think.
tell me that it's stupid, and I ask you very simple questions, like I'm not sitting here playing mental gymnastics. These aren't algorithms that you need to put into a Rubik's cube to get an answer to. If you ask me what is stupid about something that I think is stupid, as we will progress, because I didn't enjoy most of the things that we watched that we're going to talk about. If you ask me, hey, why do you think this stupid? What do you think is the critique? What do you think is unrealistic about this? Where is your critique of this? Especially if I'm going to speak as a member of the society that is being critiqued and then say that it's a stupid critique, I think that I should be in a position where I should be able to explain what is stupid about it. And it's like that's all you've said is that, oh, well, I didn't get it. What was the plot of the movie? Then I calmly explained to you the plot of the movie. And like, okay, well, yeah, I do know that that's what they were talking about throughout the entire movie. I wrote down I wrote down during the movie some things that I seen in there that I thought were very accurate portrayals of usually the pastors of these larger churches that they hit on the head. That they're vain, theatrical, materialistic, performative, all of these things. The way that he was inappropriate in his sexuality, all of that type of stuff. Him getting undressed in front of a little girl. They even specifically they were so unsubtle about the joke when she went into the Holy Ghost and then afterwards she called it theater. All this stuff it happened in the movie that we were sitting down watching, and I'm sitting down asking, okay, well, I think it was an accurate critique. I think that it was realistic portrayal, and you're telling me that it was stupid without.
You stated earlier that you grew up in the church. You've been going to the church the majority of your life because your mother and we always attended church, and we took you and marked the church with us
twice a week. So it's not like you're making it seem like I'm coming here speaking from some kind of from a place of ignorance.
Tell me, within your 29 years of life, how many pastors you saw undress in front of the church?
I recall you guys consistently talking about how some pastor of a mega church, Creflo Dollar, used to walk around in the tightest of shirts to show off his body.
No, that's the Creflo never done that.
Okay,
Eddie Long used to do it.
All right, so it's not that I was wrong about what happened. I was wrong about the name of the person. My bad.
But did you see Eddie Long in the tight shirts?
Yes,
because that was a trademark of his. Those little tight shirts.
Okay, and you don't think that was a bit vain to show off his muscles, to show off his body?
For him to walk around in a tight shirt because he was into weightlifting and all that kind of stuff, and for him to walk around as a pastor to show those muscles, it was different, but that wasn't anything ungodly. Even though he was accused of doing some ungodly things.
You see how you asked me a question and I came off the top of my head with an answer for you?
Right.
So now I'm going to redress my questions.
Okay.
What aspect of it was unrealistic?
Well, the one I just mentioned, I've never in my life seen a pastor undress in church like that. Two, I don't know what was going on with this guy, because evidently he wasn't worried about the people. He was vain and thinking about himself.
I don't think I've ever been to a church where the richest member wasn't the pastor.
Well, you hadn't been to a lot of churches, because I know the majority of the churches that you ever grew up in, the pastor wasn't nowhere near the most wealthiest person in the church.
Yeah, he just has the nicest suits and the nicest car.
Guess why? Because a lot of times during pastor appreciation, you have members and stuff who buy them nice suits. You even have some churches that may invest in the pastor having a nice car.
Do you recall the story of the woman who sold her car or gave away the money she was saving up for a car because she couldn't get back and forth to work, so her pastor could get a new plane?
That was a story with Creflo Dollar. Member, they said this woman said she saved the money she was saving for her car. She gave it towards the love offering so he could get a Learjet.
What's your reaction to another Learjet? Because he had one already. He needed a new one, right?
That within itself, that spoke of that woman being uninformed and uneducated in the Bible. That's why Timothy tells us, as followers of Christ, as followers of God, that we should study to show ourselves approved unto God, to be workmen who need not to be ashamed, but rightfully divide.
I will bring this back to the
word of
point that I
truth.
say that this is not the word of truth. This is not a critique of Christianity. Like I said, the movie had nothing to do with the Bible. I've already mentioned that. But
You're right.
You're trying to take this and make it, oh, well, they're saying this, that, and the third about the Bible, about Christianity. It is a critique of an organization that has common problems. But let me finish speaking. You will not accept the fact that there's problems with this organization because you would rather be blind to it. And that's the real problem. That's what the real critique is. They have you in the movie. Those 5 members that was like, oh, we don't care what the pastor does. We don't care what he does. He's done this, that, and the third for the church, so that makes anything that he does okay, and we're willing to overlook it. And now you'll sit there and see an honest critique, a realistic critique of it, and have no reason to call it stupid, but then sit there and call it stupid and then try to preach to me.
But see, you keep saying, and this is where me and you, we have a disagreement, a totally different disagreement, is that that's not a critique of the church.
What is it?
It better be a critique of him. And just because he was a part of the church, that don't make it a critique of the church.
Okay, but he's so important that people will be buying the pastor's suits, showing all this adulation to the pastor, paying 10% of their money to the pastor every single month. They'll pay 10%. But then when you critique people like him, because that wasn't a pastor, that was an act. No, that was not a pastor. Let me finish speaking. Stop cutting me off. That was not a pastor. I
don't want to lose my thought. You can finish, but I want to speak on that too.
So I could lose my thought then.
No. I'm just going to say you don't pay 10% of your tithing to the pastor. That's to the church. And the church is more than just the pastor. But go ahead on. I'm sorry.
The fact of the matter is, when it comes time to critique him, people like you aren't open to critiques that are honest. That was not. Let me finish speaking. That wasn't a pastor that was in that movie. That was an actor. That was not a pastor. That was an actor in that movie. So it's not a critique of him specifically. They have him playing a role that they are critiquing, a very common role, and it's not like they just made up the fact that this type of stuff happens. The whole reason you went to the movie was like, yeah, we give them enough ammo to try to shoot at us, so we have to understand that they're going to shoot at us. What is that ammo that you were referring to?
I guess you're not seeing what I'm saying. I can guarantee to you I knew that guy was an actor. I've seen him in a lot of different movies. But I'm talking about the part that he's playing. He was an actor playing the part as a pastor.
Where do you think they got that from?
Well, I know where the whole storyline probably came from. It came from the Eddie Long situation.
So there's a very famous, popular story of a pastor that has fallen into that same situation. Yet for some reason, you're making it seem like it's an unrealistic critique of the job.
Marlon, you can go to any Skid Row in any big city in the country and find people who were pastors who fell out of grace and did other things, and they're living homeless on the street. Just because you're a pastor, that don't mean that you're above God. Most of those ones that you find who's falling on hard times, they were like Satan. They put themselves above God. They thought that people come there to see them and not to hear the word of God.
You're not even open to an honest critique of something that you see a real life parallel to based on these people. So I don't think it's them. I don't think it's them that's the problem.
It might be me.
Hold on.
But before we move on to the next movie or to the next TV show or whatever, what I would like to say is that I've walked this lifestyle for over 30-something years. And doing this lifestyle, everything hadn't been the best for me, but God has not yet once.
This is not about God, and that is the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem that you can't can't break that correlation between the church and God. No, this is the problem right here. God is an entity. God is what God is. God is however anybody wants to define it, whatever. What he's not is a building full of people who have members in a hierarchy. That's not God. So if I'm going to sit here and criticize, if I criticize an animal rights organization like PETA, who obviously, painfully obviously, has so much problems within it, so many issues that are well documented. I'm not saying that animals don't deserve rights. And anybody who has a half of brain could understand that. I'm not saying you don't have a half a brain. I'm just saying that that's painfully obvious that I am critiquing an organization. I'm critiquing a system of organizations. I'm not critiquing what that organization is, what that organization at its core stands for. I think Honestly, the reason why I don't go to church anymore is because when I sit inside the church, what you felt watching that movie is exactly what I feel. All of these theatrics, none of this makes sense. It's all fake. It's all lies. And the fact of the matter is, I think that's extremely blasphemous for them to take something as sacred as Christianity, take something as sacred as people's relationship with God and the Lord, and make it into the buffoonery that has turned into this church. That's the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is their critiques were not only theirs. I thought they were extremely surface level. I don't think they went in depth into any sort of specifics of anything. I think that their critiques were universal.
And my thing is that Christianity, if you never paying attention to anything else that I tell you, anything that I say, you don't go to the church to find God. You go to the church in order to fellowship with others, but you have to go to your room, pick up your Bible, and study and find God. You have to get on your knees and find God. And if you're looking through me,
how many times do I have to say this ain't about God? Okay, but how many times do I have to say that though? I started off with that. I keep repeating it. This is not about God.
Marlon, but let me finish. See, you can say it's not about God, but yet and still it represents the church, and then you lump the whole church into it.
Okay, so did you hear the part where I said I think it's particularly blasphemous to take something as sacred as God and Christianity and then treat it the way that they do?
And what I would say to you is that don't worry about church. Don't worry about church people. Just have your relationship. Let the pastor do what he want to do.
I have my relationship with God without going to church.
The pastor, right, and the pastor's going to answer for anything that he does.
Okay, so now my question is, if I shouldn't be focused on church people and what church people do, we can assume that there is some reasoning behind that. How does that make this critique unrealistic? Which is what I keep bringing it back to that point. How is this critique not a reflection of reality if you're sitting here telling me, oh, well, you can't be focused on these people?
Well,
because that's what it's a critique of people. This is a critique of people, not God or Christianity. I can show you movies that are a critique of God and Christianity, and then I'll sit there and tell you they're stupid too. I watched Religulous, and I thought it was a ridiculous movie. It's not like I'm sitting here saying that God isn't real or that Christianity isn't sacred. What I'm saying is this particular movie was not a critique of Christianity. It was a critique of the organization of the church and the people who run it.
See, and that's where we differ. That's where we differ. That critique there didn't have anything to do with the church and the organization who run it. That critique should have been about this man who knew when he was messing with those other men that was wrong. Because you're not going to find that anywhere in the Bible where it's acceptable in the church.
That's so why you don't know any pastors that's banging all the women in the congregation?
No, I don't know any.
See, I don't want to use names. I don't want to name drop, but I know ones that you know. So I think that's being a little dishonest.
Well, no, because you're telling me, do I know anyone? And who you're probably talking about, I know them, but I don't know for certain that they were doing what people say they were doing. That's gossip in the street. He may have been doing everything the church said, everything that people say, but yet and still, that's not for me to say because I didn't see it.
If somebody were to sit in front of you and critique me, you will be more open to hearing it. Knowing me personally as well as you do, you'd be more open to hearing it than you are open to hearing critiques about ministers that are like I say, extremely surface level. Nothing is novel. Nothing in that entire movie was a novel critique.
If someone was standing in front of me critiquing you, I would hear it because I know you well enough to know the lie or the truth. And I'd be able to actually tell them that's not true. That's not true. If you're talking about Marlon wouldn't do that. His morals wouldn't allow him to do that. If you're talking about Marlon is far too intelligent to do something like that. And if they say something that I think I'm like, okay, well, you name one person who had made mistakes and keep it moving. That's how I would look at that critique of you, because I know you.
I think that was an extremely important piece of art for the world, and I think that it's open to an honest look at from anybody who involves themselves within that sphere.
And Marlon, I would agree that 90% of the your demographic would see it the way you see it, because we as parents we failed our kids.
Elaborate.
When it comes to religion, when it comes to, you said something once that caught my attention, and I thought about that stuff. And you said that we as parents, we don't raise our kids to be individuals who make up their own mind. We raise our kids in order to follow rules and regulations that we've already set, that's already been structurally set for them. And I thought that's so true. We follow this regiment to where we're raising kids to be like us when they're individuals, when we don't give them, we'll tell them to
What I said was that y'all don't raise y'all kids to be independent adults. Y'all raise y'all kids to be children. That's it. And that's because growing up, every single thing that I got in trouble for, I was extremely well aware that if I wasn't a kid, this would no longer be something that's wrong. So how is this setting me up to be an adult?
And I agreed with that fully, and as you can see, it stayed on my mind.
My thing is, I don't think the reasoning why most people in my demographic would look at the church and be like, yeah, that is an honest critique of it, is because parents have failed us. I think it is because the leaders of the church have failed us. See, when you were growing up, when you listen to what I'm saying, when you were growing up, the church, what you knew about the church was your church. You went and found a good one, because I think that the church I grew up in was a good church, even though I can levy some of these criticisms towards it. However, I think that y'all found a good one. I think the one that we went to before y'all found the most recent one was a perfect example of a church that has a whole bunch of inner mechanisms going wrong that would turn somebody off of the church. If I'm not mistaken, Mommy actually wrote, if not her dissertation, but some sort of long form article or book about why young people are leaving the church. And the reality of the situation is, it's not because our parents are failing us, it's because we are more aware of what's going on than y'all were growing up, which, not saying that we're smarter than y'all were. I think we are, but the reality of the situation is y'all didn't know anything outside of y'all neck of the woods when you were growing up.
My thing is, and your mama tell you, and I don't know if you and Mark
was it her dissertation, or what was she writing about that?
Her dissertation.
Okay, so
the attractiveness of Christianity.
A PhD level dissertation about why young people are leaving the church.
Yeah. Well, my thing is that your mom will tell you, and I don't know if you and Mark picked up on it, we go to church and the pastor would preach his sermon and whatever. But in our household, I was the pastor. The household ran according to the way your mom and I wanted it. We was outside of the box.
You were not the pastor in the church, in the household, because our house wasn't a church. That's where you find pastors.
Yeah. Well, see, the church is where two or three or more who gather together, touching an agreement. And yeah, we the four of us, I was the pastor of that house. I say of our house.
You were the father figure and the head of the house, and I will give that to you.
Well, but there was never any head and bottom in our house. Your mom and I, we worked together. I didn't tell her what to do. She didn't tell me what to do.
You don't think it's problematic that you're correlating a father who did a good job to being the pastor of a church?
No, not at all.
And that's the problem. Because people like me who sees all the craziness, all the dysfunction that goes on in that.
Well, you're looking at the dysfunction of it. I'm not looking at the church itself. I'm talking about in this house here, in our household.
This movie was not a critique of our house. This movie was a critique of extremely large churches.
See, you done left the conversation and went back to the movie.
Well, because that's what this podcast is about.
But what we're talking about now is the way members of the church conduct themselves at home.
No,
away
that's
from
what
the church
you
as
are
well.
trying to change the subject from, because you don't want to address the fact that what goes on in the church and what goes on in that movie are similar. You don't want to say, yeah, that type of stuff happens in the church. So let's change the subject and make it about our house, because I don't act like that.
No,
So
Marlon,
now
I'm not saying that type of stuff don't happen in the church. We realize that do happen, and it do happen in certain cases, but that's not the norm. That's not the majority of what goes on. How many mega churches you think they have in this whole country?
a lot.
They probably have 20 at the most.
That's a lot, ain't it? Mega churches.
No, I'm talking about 20 out of thousands. That's not a lot. You're a math man. 20 out of thousands is not a lot.
What I'm saying is, if you got 20 different churches, which I think it's intellectually dishonest to imply that not every state has at least one mega church, and that states like Texas, California, New York, Florida wouldn't have multiple ones. But let's put that to the side, because see, when I think mega church, I think like the size of the church that Uncle Courtney went to.
Well, when I think mega church, I'm thinking any congregation over 25,000 people.
You don't think that it's a problem for that many people to be following one man and not open to criticism about him?
Well, Marlon. Probably 80% or 70% or 60% of most members that go to mega churches, they have problems with the pastor. That's why mega churches have problems.
That's what the movie was a critique of. That's it. Like, that's what the movie was a critique. What you just said, that's what it was a critique of. Mm-hmm. How he went in his closet was talking, I think I should wear Prada. How she bought a $2,000 hat. There was so many aspects of that movie. And like I keep saying, these aren't even deep. These aren't even deep critiques. These are surface level, what everybody already knows.
And Marlon, what I'm trying to get you to see is that you got less than 1% of people who pastor churches who could do that, who live like that.
Okay, but my thing is, even if it's on a smaller scale, there's a reason why there's so many people that's running trying to be pastors and behaving like that, because it opens a door for them to.
Marlon Jones, we're not going to come to an agreement on that. So
I feel like I have more structurally sound points, though. I'm going to be honest with you.
You do. I don't disagree with anything that you said.
You disagreed with everything that I've said.
No, I didn't disagree with it. I just didn't. I didn't agree with the form in which the way you said it, and the form in which it was said. Because to me, you was lumping in too many pastors into that one little percent. And all pastors are not in that 1%. Pastor Baker would love to be in that 1%. Pastor Chester would love to be in that 1%. Pastor Logan would love to be in that 1%, but they're not in that 1%.
My thing is, just because you don't have all these Prada suits and all this and all the amenities, the Ferrari and Bugatti and stuff.
I don't even know what a Bugatti is.
Just because you don't have all that stuff doesn't. The thing is, if you go to these small churches where everybody in there is living below the average median income of America, you go to these churches in these poor neighborhoods, you still have these flamboyant, boisterous, vain pastors that have so much materialistic stuff. Why? Where did it come from? Nobody else in the church has this much material items except for you. That's not a 1% thing.
I wish I could agree with that part of Marlon, because I know a lot of churches where pastors they wear in the same suit 2-3 times a month.
Okay. Yo, they killed my boy Jamie.
Oh, that was a surprise. I don't know why. Why would they take Jamie out? Jamie was one of the key characters. Tell them what we're talking about now, Marlon.
We talking about Top Boy. We got around to watching season 2.
Yep, and if you watch Top Boys after the last time we talked about it, you realize that Jamie and Shane and all of them, they're main characters. And
I think I read somewhere though that season 3 is going to be the last season. How did you feel about season 2 on the whole? Let's start. Let's not start it in. Let's start at the beginning of season 2. You see that they ran down on the little boy accidentally. Oh, so how did just on the whole? How did you what's your take?
Well, season 2 was okay. It wasn't anything over dramatic or anything, but I don't know how Jamie ended up in jail, and then Deshane got to sh- show a film to get him out of jail when that film was there, and anybody could have seen it.
Well, I think the reasoning why is because it was his private film. It wasn't actual. It's not like the housing complex they live in had security cameras that Jamie had access to and then lost access to at that moment. Like, no, there was no security cameras, no official CCTV at that place, and I don't even think that they knew what to look for in it. Whereas it was private, like his personal CC, and then he didn't have access to the CCTV
Well,
video.
the thing is that let's say he didn't have access to it at that particular time. I don't see why later on he couldn't come back and pull up the footage. If the footage was recorded, he should have been able to come back later on, pull up the footage, and see, oh, that was so and so who took that lime green bag into the apartment.
I mean, my thing is, for one, because he was in jail, and for two, like how if he had his connection to it disconnected during that time period, like the only person who had access to CCTV information for that specific place at that specific moment was what's his name? Deshane. He was the only person who had access to it. Similarly to how if something happened and there was a break in the connection of the security outside of this house right now for you and Mommy, I would be the only person who would have access to that footage. But I think that's a side point. They needed something to happen, like to make
to get them
drama,
together,
make it a TV show. Yeah, basically. And I think that if you want to, I think if you want to like pick at it, you could find imperfections in the logic, because although he might have only had access to that particular CCTV footage, I think that they could have found CCTV footage from somewhere in the city where they seen this little kid walking in that direction with that bag. So like I say, if you want to pick at it and nitpick things, I think that you can find imperfections in it. But as far as we have to get Jamie in jail and make Deshane be the person to get him out. Like for as just making good TV, I thought that they did a good job of that situation. Personally, though.
Okay, well, I'm gonna sound like the bad guy, because when they found the little boy in the garbage can dead, I was like, man, boy, that's nice.
Here's my problem. I am willing to typically overlook shaky plots if they have likable characters. Like that's something that I'm willing to do. And that's why I did enjoy season 2 all the way up until the very last moment where he shot Jamie, and then it put the entire season in a different light for me, to where I don't know that I would. Okay, I can't say I didn't enjoy it, because I sat there and watched 10 hours of it enjoying it, and then the last 3 minutes just made me look at it differently. But I think my problem was here was the line of events, the plot as I personally saw it. Deshane gets Jamie out of jail for what the little boy did. Then the little boy, Jamie's friend, hires somebody that's supposed to tough up the little boy, scare him a little bit, and that guy accidentally kills him. So then they spend a large portion of it trying to figure out who did it, who's responsible for it. So then when they do find out who's responsible for it, we realize that, when we realize who's responsible for it, we see the guy kills the guy who he hired. But they don't see that. But Deshane is smart enough to put 2 and 2 together that's kind of fishy, that I didn't even get a chance to talk to this guy. You had him in this situation, and then, you just murdered him, when I don't even think they really painted him out to be this, cold-blooded killer like that. Maybe if it was, I'm forgetting people's names. The guy who killed Jamie. Sully. Yeah, maybe if it was Sully who did it, and it's bro, you just kill people, that'll be more understandable. But still, he was smart enough to realize that. So then it all comes to this culmination where he's like, okay, well, because he's responsible for killing one of my youth, then you got to kill him, or else I'm going to kill you. And I feel like that building up to that crescendo of, all right, all of these things have happened, and now Jamie, in order to keep himself in a situation to take care of his family, has to kill his best friend, and then he does it. I think all of that's masterfully done, well put together, until like you kill Jamie anyway. So it's like, okay, now what was the point of any of this? And it just, that's why I say I enjoyed the whole thing up until the end, where it's like I realized, all right, well, Jamie's getting killed anyway. So like, what was this for? Just like I feel like it, and this is something that I was talking about when we were watching Bel Air last night. That bothers me a lot when I'm seeing things on TV. It's just manufactured conflict. I feel like another example of that was that, okay, the girl who told the guy about Sully being at the funeral so he could get shot at, she ran away, and it's like, why did you have to get pregnant by the most crazy, like, why did that situation even need to be that? And I don't think you were enough of a contributing character to the show to where when you get to the end, the big bad, like the main antagonist, turns out to be some guy who he didn't have no ties to you before. You went out there, just happened to get pregnant from him. We didn't even see any of the buildup. We just seen you call your sister and be like, yeah, we know that you're pregnant by this guy because we seen the one scene before you told us that, showing that you were pregnant and living in his house and all that type of stuff. And it's just like, I just felt like what that didn't really even need to happen, and then it ended up playing such a large contributing role, but then it evolved into nothing also. Like there was no there like the only thing that's gonna come of this is some random baby that I don't personally care about the baby. I'm sure that in storyline, like the people, they care about the fact that, what's the name's gonna be an aunt and all that type of stuff. I still think that it's so minor, and I just feel like not enough was put into that to make that something that I care about, for y'all to have had it be such a large portion of the climax, whereas what y'all did focus on throughout the entirety of the season, what y'all were building through the whole season, at the end you just threw it all away by killing Jamie anyway. Plus, I like Jamie.
Well, my thing is, when they killed off Jamie, they killed off one viewer.
I'm gonna watch season 3.
Oh no, I will not watch any more of that.
Yes, you will.
I guarantee you, I won't watch season 3 of it. Because to me, you done took the main character that I really liked out the picture. So
I mean, but we still have like
that's almost like tennis. You think I'll be watching women tennis now since Serena gone?
We could put a pin in that. Don't remind me that I did want to talk about Serena a little bit though. But my thing is though, I'm curious, what is Deshane's reaction to Sully, who, yeah, y'all are brothers, but at the same time, you just killed what I told you was my retirement plan, when another side plot of this entire season was that I've been trying to get clean for my relationship with my new girlfriend and her daughter and all this stuff. Like you just completely went against me without even saying anything, and massively inconvenienced me. So I'm curious how he's going to react to that.
Well, he's going to see it the same way I saw it, is that he realized that he just had told Deshane he wasn't going to be a part of the group no more. They were going into totally different directions, and he don't see his future tied with his. And then Deshane tell him, hey, Jamie is going to be my retirement plan and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden you leave Deshaun and go straight to Jamie and kill him.
Yeah, that seems like
that's another manufactured conflict, because now Deshane and him, Sully gonna be at each other again.
I don't know how that's gonna happen though, because they weren't at each other when Deshane made Sully kill one of his close friends, and that, like, I'm curious as to how that particular line of how that plot line is going to develop moving into season 3. That's why
Well, you can tell me about it.
Okay, and I was about to say something else with it too. Like I'm curious how that's gonna, is he going to, what's gonna happen with I'm horrible with names. What's the name of the place they live in? Something House.
Oh, I just knew it was Liverpool, England, or something that
No, it was even the name of the side series that we watched, Something House, whatever.
Oh.
I'll look it up and I'll put the words on the screen somewhere. But anyway, I'm curious how the development of that's gonna happen. Yeah, like there is things moving into season 3 that I am genuinely curious about. That I say, I mean, like you say, I'll tell you about what happens, but I am very genuinely curious about. Like, I'm still interested, even though one of my favorite characters. Like, I want to know what effect is this going to have on Jamie's younger brother. His older brother seems to be at a place in life where he already kind of knows who he is and what he wants to do, and he might be able to handle this type of tragedy and trauma better than his younger brother. But I want to know, like, what's going to go on with that. Like,
And my thing is, you got Sally killing everybody when technically that's who the person who would be getting killed. You would have so many people out to kill him to where he would be dead by now. But you take one of the main characters who, other than killing his friend, I don't know of a lot of other characters he killed.
and I don't know. I think they've shown him killing a decent amount of people. I would have to go back.
Yeah,
And,
you would
like,
have to go back and
tally
look.
it.
I know he's been in a lot of little scrapes. Excuse me. But he hadn't really killed that many people.
Hmm. I mean, I know that, and then there's stories of how him and Jamie, I mean, him and Deshane used to kill people. The guy was willing to rat on him, was going to tell everything about all the people they've killed. I think a lot of it may have not been on camera, but it's just like people know that they killed people. But like I say,
Well, I know Deshane has, but I'm talking about Jamie.
Oh, Jamie.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie. Oh, I thought you were saying Sully didn't kill anybody.
No, I was saying Jamie. Other than his friend, I don't know anybody else Jamie killed.
Um. Again, he talks like he had killed people. Like when came back to Deshane and was like, I'm like that. Like, you didn't have to send Sully out there to kill the guy. If you want the guy killed, you know that I do that. So, like, I don't know why these murders should probably stand out to me a little bit more than they do, because I'm having a hard time remembering them. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, I don't think any of these people are like the type of mass murderers that you would see these gangsters be in America, because like guns aren't the easiest thing to just come across when you're in.
I don't know. Sully done killed a lot of them.
I mean, but like, yeah, I feel like they live in a place, and I could be wrong because I've never been to England yet. But I feel like they're just in a place where if you got the gun, you're the bad guy. Like you win type thing. You're not gonna find a lot of like you just run into people on the street and they have their gun on them type of people.
Mm.
But like I said, I will be keeping in tune for season 3 whenever that comes out. LeBron and Drake just got sued for stealing somebody's idea for something. I'm not exactly sure. Apparently, they both executive produced something, and they're in some legal hot water about intellectual property right now. So I don't know if that's going to have any effect on like season 3, or the timing of when that's coming out. But I'll be paying attention when it does.
Well, I think even if somehow somebody property was stolen, Drake or LeBron didn't do it, but somebody brought it to them and they didn't.
Yeah, I don't think
passing it off as theirs.
I don't think they sat down themselves, looked at that, and then ran and wrote a script about what they had seen. I think more than likely they went and paid somebody to they went to produce something for somebody. Either the person had already written it and brought it to them, or they were like, hey, I want to work with you, and then paid the person to go write something, and then that person stole intellectual property. But just because, for one thing, they're the big names, they're the rich people involved, and they're the ones funding it, I think that's why the accountability falls onto them. Which I don't know how fair that is, but to be honest, I just kind of brought that up as a side point. I think that it's going to be something that'll be very easily handled. It's probably going to cost them a little bit of money that don't mean nothing to them, or maybe even they'll be able to find some way to legally get themselves detached from whoever did the actual stealing of intellectual property. Because being an executive producer, you're not that responsible for the creative aspects of what's being put down. I just brought that up because I thought it was interesting. I've been seeing the headlines.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Kanan, who you think they killed? Him and his mom was kicking in the ditch in the preview for episode 5. I think this next week. We just watched episode 4 of Raising Kanan.
When did you see him kicking somebody in the ditch?
afterwards, where they were showing like a preview of what's gonna happen in the next episode, it was just a real quick flash of them throwing somebody in a ditch that they killed.
Kanan and his mom.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that little flash.
All right, what did you think of episode 4?
It was all right. I think Kanan is now starting to realize that his mom's not being 100% legit with him. That she's hiding stuff and you know.
I do think she's getting a little bit too messy. Like not messy because she's not like, yeah, that's the best word that I could think to describe it. Just in her actions, the way she's moving, I think it's starting to make her look real untrustworthy, unreliable. I think that there's a building tension between her and Lou that I don't think is in the best interest of the business that they have going on. Although it seems like she's using that business to fuel the tensions that they have.
Well, my thing is, going over to Jersey and dealing with the mafia people, and from watching movies and just listening to different things, most mafia people got judges and different people, police people in their pockets, and so she's just setting herself up to get caught up into some real mess.
This may be me wishful thinking because I think the reality of the situation is compared to like a mafia or like a Don or something along the lines of what they were trying to build this character up to be. In the real world, he would just have all of them killed. Like there would just be flooded with bullets in all of their different places. But I'm hoping that it develops into more of a friendly relationship between her and him. I think that was kind of implied in him being like he likes her after she was like basically like, yo, I hear your offer, I'm not doing none of it, and then just walked away from him. Like I think that her showing a sign of strength, even though maybe might not be the most realistic way that situation would have been handled, I think that it is gonna, for the plot, make it more interesting moving forward in their interactions.
I don't know, because to actually shoot up people and everything like they say the mafia used to do,
because this is the 80s too.
Yeah, see that's not really mafia. Mafia wants the money. They want to get paid.
But I mean, if you are going to encroach onto their property where they, like their territory, I mean to say, if you're going to encroach onto their territory, then you are directly having a negative effect on their money, and I think that's where the violence comes in at.
Well, that's why I'm saying he rather have a piece of the pot than to want to shoot up things. That's why he brought it to their attention in the first place. The only way to get to where he want to shoot up everybody is that if she, like she said, she don't pay and then still try to do what she's doing.
Which is what happened. She said, I see your offer, I reject it, and then she was driving her school bus, which he ended up stealing her bus full of all the drugs and stuff, so we're going to see how she's going to have to navigate that.
That was before she met with him.
Are you sure that was? Yeah, that was after we met with him, and then she got home. Then when she was leaving, she was like, all right, we got to stop using the trucks. Let's start using the school buses. Then they showed Unique on the phone with somebody. I'm assuming was him telling them that something about a school bus. They cut off the end of his conversation because the police officer walked in and talked to him when he said he didn't have nothing to say to her about, his situation and who was basically trying to get him locked up when he was dealing with the stuff in jail. And then after that, that's when because when she talked to him, that's when she decided to switch from using trucks to school buses, and then he somehow still knew to jack the school bus.
Oh, okay, but I think he would rather have money than to try to fight a war, because he realized that these people got guns and everything, and he probably got more soldiers than he do too.
I wouldn't think so, because a lot of the times when it comes to these mafias, first of all, they're not just a gang. They're a culmination of a whole bunch of gangs. And then a lot of the times there's a family structure dynamic. Like people are like people say that you're born into a gang just because your dad used to bang that gang or because of whatever neighborhood you live in. But when your family's in the mafia, you were legitimately born into the mafia. Like you don't have an option in it, and you were raised on that. So I don't know. Just the way that they explain these characters, and then also the fact that he got all of Jersey on lock. Like if I had to assume, I would assume that he had more manpower than she has at her disposal.
Maybe, but I thought the episode was okay. I just think she's getting sloppy.
I'm rooting for Kanan and his dad to like become cool and then eventually build into something where it's like, and I didn't pay as good attention to Power, so maybe during Power Kanan explained that he had killed his dad at a young age. I'm not exactly sure about that, but like I brought up the ditch thing because I'm hoping it's not the police officer, because I would rather that cause animosity between him and his mom's relationship than for them to have just built up so much of that storyline just to throw it away with, okay, well, that is my dad. All right, we could go kill him together then. Did you is there anything else you wanted to say about that?
No, I'm waiting on Sunday to see the next episode so I can see what
Yeah.
was going on.
I don't think that episode really did a whole bunch for moving forward. I'm this is one of those this is one of those shows though where I'm just like, I'm not emotionally invested in the side characters, but I think they're cool enough to where if you have an episode where a whole bunch of stuff happens with side characters, I'll still be entertained by it. Like, I think it's cool. Famous got a place. I don't know who that was, Kanan banging now, but like I'm sure he's gonna bang her and her mom. Like like all the extra stuff going on around his jukebox, finding her mother, deciding to wear a dress and go to church, and then battling with the whole idea of does she want to look feminine or not. Like all that type of stuff, I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of anything, but it's interesting enough to me to where it had my attention.
I just think the guy who with the radio station who trying to go behind my boy back and make deals gonna end up dead.
I hope so. I don't like. He's one of the ones who I don't like. Was it in the episode or was it in the previews of the next episode where the guy ended up pulling the gun on Lou? I think that might have been in the preview of the next episode where you go, oh, if you pull this, you better use it. And he's like, what make you think I'm not gonna use it? And it's like, bro, you're dead already at this point. Like, if you kill me, you're gonna get killed. If you don't kill me, you're gonna get killed. So like, I'm hoping in that he can. I was honestly
Who pulled the gun on Ludo?
The guy who he worked with in the studio.
Oh, really? I didn't see. I wasn't paying attention to the next.
I think that might have been a preview of the next episode. I personally, I was.
That might be who was in the hole then.
Could be. I was on the side. I mean, but I don't think that it'd be Kanan and his mom who Kanan and Rock who kills him. I think it'd just be Lou or maybe Marvin. Which, I mean, they're Marvin finally started flirting with the woman, like how I said. I knew that, and she blushed. So yeah, he's gonna smash that before the end of the season. I'm almost positive.
Oh yeah, You can tell the way she was coming at him that she was trying to get attention.
But I also I was personally, I'd have been happier if Rock just actually bought his stake in the studio and he moved away to California with the other girl or something like that. Like, I mean, if he gets killed, who cares? This is just a fictional character. The actual actor will still be alive, so whatever. But like, I just finding some way to phase him out of everything. He kind of seems useless. Plus, there's even the new guy who's the manager of the girl who now Rock is flirting with him, and she acted like it was just so mind-boggling that he used art to launder money when that's like what expensive art is for. But like, I feel like between Lou buying up his portion of ownership of the studio as well as this new character being involved, being introduced into it, using it for money laundering and being the girl's manager, he's unnecessary, really. There's no point in keeping his character around.
But yeah, that's what I said with Rock. Rock's not a visionary because that studio could be a cash cow under her money.
Yeah, and then it's beautiful because it's like when it comes to things like really any form of art is like, I know cash businesses is usually what people say is the easiest thing to launder money, but any form of art is really a pristine way to launder money because the value of it is subjective. Like, I could tell you that I paid somebody $20 for a verse on my taxes, but I could also tell you I paid somebody $1 million for a verse, and anywhere in between. And it's just like, well, how do you know, and all that type of stuff. So it's just like, or that I got paid $20 for this verse that somebody who signed to my label did, or that I got paid $1 million. Like, you don't know how much money is being really exchanged in all of this, and you can very easily exchange this money in cash as well. So I just think that when it comes to artistic things, it's always a good idea to use to use that for as your money laundering. We have a couple more things to talk about. We've been talking for a little minute now, but I wanted to talk about Bel Air. I have a lot to say about Bel Air. I have a whole lot to say about Bel Air, and I wanted to mention that we're not going to talk about The Chi. No, we're going to talk about we binge watched 4 seasons, 4 seasons of The Chi, and I hated every single second of it. But we're probably gonna finish this last season because it's only 5 seasons, and then next podcast when we got more time and stuff, we could talk about that. I do want to let the batteries charge for a little bit before we talk about Bel Air, because I see that camera battery's about to die, so I can only assume that one's gonna die shortly after it. And then I could feed my cat. She's somewhere around here starving to death, and we could come back in like 30 minutes or so after the batteries charge a little bit, and we could rap about Bel Air. Or we could talk about it next week if you want, because we've been talking for over an hour now. I knew this was going to be a long episode because I knew we had a lot to talk about. Like, I thought we were going to spend more time talking about Bel Air than Honk For Jesus, and we spent 40 minutes talking about that. Like, there's a lot to talk about. So, would you rather just?
Yeah, we'll pick up on the next one episode. We'll do when we do episode 6. We can do that.
So next, let's just do it. What's today? Tuesday? Oh, man, you could tell that I'm a bum. I don't know what
Thursday.
Day it is. It's Thursday. Monday, Saturday or Sunday, because like between The Chi and Bel Air, that's enough for us to talk about a whole thing, and I'm sure we're gonna watch something else in the meantime. So I don't know how it's like Saturday or Sunday. I know that's kind of a quick turnaround for us to do another episode. Like, what do you?
Yeah, we get together. Yeah,
we live together, so like it shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world.
Yep, that's true. See, one camera shut completely.
Yeah, that one battery died, and I see that one battery blinking.
Yep, I see it blinking too. All right.
Well, it's been fun, Mr. Jones.
It's been fun, Marlon.
Another episode of my dad's podcast. Any last words? Final. Serena too. So that's the 3 things we're going to talk about. At least we might have something else added to it. I wanted to do like a remembrance of Serena and her whole career. We watched tennis a lot together, and we have been for the last 20 years. I'm sure he's been watching longer than that, but like it's been a big thing for us. So like we're going to talk about that too. Yeah, we're going to have to do this turnaround up the next episode pretty quickly because we don't want too much stuff to build up. Did you have any last thing?
I'm good. Family, I'm glad that you tuned in. Look forward to talking to you again.
Bye.
Bye.